Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Uday Khanna from Chandigarh Group of Colleges, Landra, Mohali. Today we are going to talk on module sampling and sampling distribution. We'll discuss determining sample size under the people quantitative techniques for management decisions. After completing this module, you should be able to understand to realize the importance of estimating optimal sample size, relevance of variable influencing sample size, and to make a preliminary estimate of the appropriate sample size. One of the most common questions any statistician gets asked is how large a sample size do I need? Researchers are often surprised to find out that the answer depends on a number of factors and they have to give the statistician some information before they can get an answer for their questions. The answers are essentially different depending on whether a study is a survey designed to find out the proportion of something or is designed to find a sample mean. How many responses do you really need? This simple question is a never-ending dilemma for researchers. A larger sample can yield more accurate results, but excessive responsive can be expensive. Consequently, research requires an understanding of the statistics that drive sample size decisions. Data required for computation of sample size. The first thing is magnitude of error, that is the desired precision plus minus small e. It gives the estimate of how precise we want to be in our measurement. Here, the researcher must work out the largest acceptable difference between the sample mean and the population mean. It is specified by acceptable degree of sampling error. It is termed as standard error, that is the standard deviation of the sample means. Therefore, the larger the acceptable degree of sampling error, the smaller the sample size must be. For example, if we want to estimate the average weight of 60 students in a class within plus minus 4 kg, the precision level becomes plus minus 4 kg. Second example, if a researcher finds that 70% of farmers in the sample have adopted a recombinant technology with a precision rate of plus minus 5%, then the researcher can conclude that between 65 and 75% of farmers in the population have adopted the new technology. The formula is given as mu is equal to x bar plus minus a small sampling error, where small x bar is equal to the sample mean and small sampling error could be denoted by z, that is confidence interval, multiplied by sigma sub x bar. Finally, the formula becomes mu is equal to x bar plus minus z multiplied by sigma x sub x bar. Second is value associated with desired confidence level, that is z. It states the degree of confidence interval taken in the population mean. It is a percentage or decimal value that tells how confident a researcher can be for his research. It includes the long-run percentage of confidence interval that will include the true population mean. It implies that the greater the desired confidence, the larger the sample size. For example, if we want to be 95% confident that the estimate weight of the student in the class should be within plus minus 4 kg, then the desired confidence level is 95%. The basic idea described in central limit theorem is that when a population is repeatedly sampled, the average value of an attribute obtained is equal to the true population value. In other words, if a confidence interval is 95%, it means 95 out of 100 samples will have the true population value within range of precision. Your confidence level corresponds to a z-score. This is a constant value needed for this equation. Here are the z-scores for the most common confidence level. At 90% z-score, the value is 1.645. At 95% z-score, the value is 1.96. At 99% z-score, the value is 2.576. Variance, estimator of the standard deviation of the population sigma. It investigates that how heterogeneous is the population. This variability is measured by estimating the population standard deviation. A heterogeneous population will have more variance, will require a large sample, while a homogeneous population having less variance will require a small sample. The more heterogeneous a population is, the larger the sample size is required to get an optimum level of precision. Note that a proportion of 55% indicates a high level of variability than either 10% or 80%. This is because 10% and 80% means that a large majority does not or does respectively have the attribute under consideration. Therefore, a smaller dispersion in the population calls for a smaller sample size, while a larger dispersion in the population calls for a larger sample size. Concepts of confidence interval and confidence level. The confidence interval, also called as margin of error, is the plus-minus figure usually reported in newspaper or television opinion poll results. For example, if you use a confidence interval of 4 and 47% of your sample picks an answer, you can be sure that if you had asked the question of the entire relevant population between 43% and 51%, that is 47 minus 4 and 47 plus 4, would have picked that answer. The confidence level tells you how sure you can be. It is expressed as a percentage and represents how often the true percentage of the population who would pick an answer lies within the confidence interval. The 95% confidence level means you can be 95% certain. The 99% confidence level means you can be 99% certain. Most researchers use the 95% confidence level. When you put the confidence level and the confidence interval together, you can say that you are 95% sure that the true percentage of the population is between 43% and 51%. The wider the confidence interval you are willing to accept, the more certain you can be that the whole population answers would be within that range. For example, if you asked a sample of 1000 people in a city which brand of Coca-Cola they prefer and 60% said brand A, you could be very certain that between 40 and 80% of all the people in the city actually do prefer that brand. But you cannot be so sure that between 59 and 61% of the people in the city prefer the brand. Factors that affect confidence interval. There are 3 factors that determine the size of the confidence interval for a given confidence level. First is sample size, second is percentage, and third is the population size. Sample size. The larger your sample size, the more sure you can be that their answers truly reflect the population. This indicates that for a given confidence level, the larger your sample size, the smaller your confidence interval. However, the relationship is not linear. That is, doubling the sample size does not halve the confidence interval. Percentage. Your accuracy also depends on the percentage of your sample that picks a particular answer. If 99% of your sample said yes and 1% said no, the chances of error are remote, irrespective of sample size. However, if the percentage are 51% and 49%, the chances of error are much greater. It is easier to be sure of extreme answers than of middle of the road ones. When determining the sample size needed for a given level of accuracy, you must use the worst case percentage 50%. You should also use this percentage if you want to determine a general level of accuracy for a sample you already have. To determine the confidence interval for a specific answer your sample has given, you can use the percentage picking that answer and get a smaller interval. Next is population size. How many people are there in the group your sample represents? This may be the number of people in a city you are studying, the number of people who buy new cars, etc. Often, you may not know the exact population size. This is not a problem. The mathematics of probability proves the size of the population is irrelevant unless the size of the sample exceeds a few percent of the total population you are examining. This means that a sample of 500 people is equally useful in examining the opinion of a state of 1,50 crore as it would a city of 1 lakh. For this reason, the survey system ignores the population size when it is large or unknown. Population size is only likely to be a factor when you work with a relatively small and known group of people, that is, for example, the member of an association. The confidence interval calculation assumes you have a genuine random sample of the relevant population. If your sample is not truly random, you cannot rely on the intervals. Non-random sample usually result from some flaw in the sampling procedure. An example of such a flaw is to only call people during the day and miss almost everyone who works. For most purposes, the non-working population cannot be assumed to accurately represent the entire, that is, working and the non-working population. Determining sample size for estimating population mean. Formula is given as n is equal to z square multiplied by sigma square divided by e square, where z is equal to standardized value indicating the level of confidence, e is equal to accepted magnitude of sampling error, that is precision, sigma is equal to estimator of the population standard deviation, or n is equal to z square multiplied x square divided by e square, or n is equal to zs upon e whole square, where s is equal to sample standard deviation. While the first two estimates, that is the desired precision level and the desired confidence level, are at the discretion of the researcher, the standard deviation of the population is a bit tough to estimate. When sampling distribution of sample mean x bar is normal, the standard normal variable z is given by the formula z is equal to x bar minus mu divided by sigma square root of n, where z is equal to standard normal variate, x bar is equal to sample mean, mu is equal to population mean, sigma is equal to population standard deviation, and n is equal to sample size, or x bar minus mu is equal to z sigma divided by square root of n. When sample data is collected and the sample mean x bar is calculated, that sample mean is typically different from the population mean mu. This difference between the sample and population mean can be thought of as an error. The margin of error E is the maximum difference between the observed sample mean x bar and the true value of the population mean mu. So error E is equal to z multiplied by sigma square root divided by square root of n, where z alpha by 2 is known as the critical value, the positive z value that is at the vertical boundary for the area of alpha by 2 in the right tail of the standard normal distribution. Sigma is the population standard deviation and n is the sample size which is given in the table. Rearranging this formula, we can solve for the sample size necessary to produce results accurate to a specified confidence and margin of error. So n is equal to z sigma divided by e whole square. This formula can be used when you know sigma and want to determine the sample size necessary to establish with a confidence of 1 minus alpha, the mean value mu to be within plus minus e. You can still use this formula if you don't know your population standard deviation and you can have a small sample size. Although it is unlikely that you know sigma when the population mean is not known, you may be able to determine sigma from a similar process or from a pilot test simulation. If you find your sample size is too large to handle, try slightly decreasing your confidence level or increasing your margin of error. This will increase the chance for error in your sampling, but it can greatly decrease the number of responses you need. Here is the given diagram of sampling distribution of the mean, where there is a mean where mu is equal to mu x bar, and we have alpha by 2 in the right tail and alpha by 2 in the left tail as well. Interval they are extend from x bar minus z sigma x small sub x bar to x bar plus z sigma sub bar x. Some exemptions to be taken: that population standard deviation is known, population is normally distributed. If population is not normal, then we use large samples. In case if the true population dispersion is unknown, it could be fine. The standard deviation of the sample is used as a proxy figure. Now this figure could be worked out by any one of the following methods. It could be any previous research on this topic, a pilot test or pre-test of the data among a sample drawn from the population, a rule of thumb, that is 1/6 of the range based on 6 standard deviation within 99.73% confidence. Confidence interval estimate. The difference between x bar and mu is called the sampling error or margin of error E, or E is equal to z sigma divided by square root of n. Thus, the acceptable margin of error, that is maximum tolerance difference between unknown population mean and the sample estimate at a particular level of confidence at the chosen level 1 minus alpha, can be written as x bar minus mu is equal to z alpha by 2 sigma divided by square root of n, or E is equal to z alpha by 2 sigma divided by square root of n. Therefore, n is equal to z square multiplied sigma square divided by E square, where n is equal to sample size, z is equal to standardized value indicating the level of confidence, E is equal to accepted magnitude of sampling error, that is precision, and sigma is equal to estimator of the population standard deviation. Or n is equal to z square s square divided by E square, or n is equal to zs upon E ka whole square, where s is equal to sample standard deviation. If population standard deviation sigma is unknown, then sample standard deviation s can be used to find sample size n. While the first two estimate the desired precision level and the desired confidence level are at the discretion of the researcher, the standard deviation of the population is a bit tough to estimate. When to use the sample or population standard deviation? We are normally interested in knowing the population standard deviation because our population contains all the values we are interested. Therefore, you would normally calculate the population standard deviation 1. When you have the entire population, or 2. When you have a sample of a large population. But you are only interested in this sample and do not wish to generalize our findings to the population. However, in statistics, we are usually presented with a sample from which we wish to estimate or generalize to a population, and the standard deviation is no exception to this. Therefore, if all you have is a sample but you wish to make a statement about the population standard deviation from which the sample is drawn, you need to use the sample standard deviation. The standard deviation is used in conjunction with the mean to summarize continuous data, not categorical data. In addition, the standard deviation, like the mean, is normally only appropriate when the continuous data is not significantly skewed or has outliers. For example, a teacher sets an exam for their students. The teacher wants to summarize the results the students attained as a mean and standard deviation. Which standard deviation we should use? The answer is population standard deviation. The teacher is only interested in this class of students or pupils' scores and nobody else. On the other hand, a researcher has interviewed females aged 18 to 30 years old for their view on live-in relationships. Which standard deviation would most likely to be used? The probable answer is sample standard deviation. Although not explicitly stated, a researcher investigating live-in relationship issues will not simply be concerned with just the participants of their study. They will want to show how their sample results can be generalized to the whole population. In this case, female aged 18 to 30 years old. One of the questions on a national consensus survey asks for respondent age. Which standard deviation would be used to describe the variations in all ages received from the consensus? The probable answer is population standard deviation. Because a national consensus is used to find out information about the national citizens. By definition, it includes the whole population. Therefore, a population standard deviation would be used. Methods to estimate the population standard deviation. The standard deviation is a measure of the spread of scores within the set of data. Usually, we are interested in the standard deviation of a population. However, as we are often presented with data from a sample only, we can estimate the population standard deviation from a sample standard deviation. These two standard deviations, sample and population standard deviation, are calculated differently. In statistics, we are usually presented with having to calculate sample standard deviation, but we can also estimate the population standard deviation with the given methods. The first one is use information from a previous study. If the researchers already conducted such type of study, they can make use of that information for the current study as well. Second, use secondary data. Researchers can take help of vast amount of data available with the company on their website or their local library. It can also be well estimated with the help of different sources like industry averages, competitor data, government documents, some previous surveys, and many others. This existing pool of information may help them to work out the estimate of population standard deviation. Third, conduct a small study of the population. The researcher may conduct a study of relatively small numbers of target population members to better understand the group's degree of dispersion from the average for the variable under study. Last one, fourth point, talk to informed people. At last, the researcher could also use the judgment of the experienced managers who are quite knowledgeable about the variables under study. Now, for example, a hospital wants an estimate of the mean time that a doctor spends with each patient in the OPD. How large a sample should be taken if the desired margin of error is 2 minutes at 95% level of confidence, assuming population standard deviation of 8 minutes. Now here the data is given as E is equal to 2 minutes, Z is 1.96 at 95% confidence level, alpha is given as 8. So n z square is formula is n is equal to z square sigma square divided by E square. Values, putting the values, z as 1.96, sigma as 8 square and small e as 2 square. The answer is roughly around 62. Sample size for estimating population proportion. The previous discussion was focused on determining sample size for estimating mean value. But at times, it is the proportion of population with a particular attribute which is more significant than the mean value. For example, one might be interested in knowing the proportion of households who dine or who dinner outside on weekends rather than enjoying at their home. Calculation of sample size of proportion. We already know that the margin of error is 1.96 times the standard error and the standard error is given by the formula square root of p hat 1 minus p hat divided by n. In general, the formula becomes E is equal to Z square root of p hat 1 minus p hat divided by n, or E is equal to Z divide square root of p hat into q divided by n, where q is equal to 1 minus p hat. Here, E is the desired margin of error, that is the difference between the sample proportion p bar and the population proportion p, is the Z score, that is 1.645 90%, 1.96 at 95%, and 2.58 for 99% confidence level. P hat is our prior judgment of the correct value of p, and n is the sample size that is to be found. Now, for example, a professor in Department of Management Studies is trying to determine the proportion of students in the department who support late marriages after 30 years of age. He asked, how large a sample size do I need? To answer a question like this, we need to ask the researcher certain questions like, how accurately do you need the answer? What level of confidence do you intend to use? What is your current estimate of the proportion of students in the department who support late marriages? Possible answers might be, first, we need a margin of error less than 2.5%. Typical surveys have margin of error ranging from less than 1% to something of the order of 4%. We can choose any margin of error we like, but need to specify it. Second, 95% confidence intervals are typical but not in any way mandatory. We could do 90%, 99% or something else entirely. For this example, we assume it to be 95%. Third, it may be guided by past surveys or general knowledge of public opinion. Let's suppose the answer is 30%. So in this case, we set E equal to 0.025, Z is equal to 1.96 and P hat is equal to 0.3. And equation becomes 0.025 is equal to 1.96 square root of 0.3 into 0.7 divided by n, or 0.3 into 0.7 divided by n is equal to 0.025 divided by 1.96 the whole square, and the answer is 0.0001617. Therefore, n is equal to 0.3 into 0.7 divided by 0.0001617, that is equal to 1291. Therefore, roughly a sample size of 1300 students is required for the proposed study. We would clearly be trying varying any one of the element of this. For example, maybe the researcher would be satisfied with the 90% confidence interval for which Z is equal to 1.645. In this case, the equation becomes 0.025 is equal to 1.645 square root of 0.3 into 0.7 divided by n, for which we can quickly find n is equal to 909. If we are willing to accept a lower confidence level, we can get away with a smaller sample size. A different type of variation is what if we have no initial estimate of p hat. In this case, the convention is to assume p hat is equal to 0.5. The reason is that the standard error formula given by p hat 1 minus p hat divided by n is largest when p hat is equal to 0.5. So this is a conservative assumption that allows for p hat being unknown a priori. If we repeat the calculation with p hat is equal to 0.5 by returning z is equal to 1.96, we find that 0.025 is equal to 1.96 square root of 0.5 into 0.5 divided by n, which results in n is equal to 1537. For example, a survey estimated that 20% of all Indians aged 16 to 20 are quite concerned for their health. A similar survey is planned for US. They want a 95% confidence interval to have a margin of error of 0.04%. The first question is, find the necessary sample size if they expect to find results similarly to those in India. Second part, suppose instead they use the conservative formula based on p hat is equal to 0.5. What is now the required sample size? So the answer lies general formula E is equal to Z square root of p hat 1 minus p hat divided by n, which translate to n is equal to p hat 1 minus p hat z square divided by e square. So n is equal to 0.2 into 0.8 into 1.96 square divided by 0.04 into 0.04. The result is 384, approximately 384 numbers. For B part, with E is equal to 0.04 and P hat is equal to 0.5, Z is given as 1.96, we get N is equal to 0.5 into 0.5 into 1.96 into 1.96 divided by 0.04 into 0.04. Result comes as 600.25. So the sample size is 384 for A part and 600 for B, showing the advantage in using the estimated P hat 0.2 so long as we feel confident that this is roughly the right guess. Determining the sample size with FPC, which stands for Finite Population Character. Finite Population Character FPC is used to determine sample size when sampling without replacement takes place. The use of such factor reduces the standard error by a value equal to square root of n capital N minus small n divided by capital N minus 1. For example, in estimating the mean, the sampling error is given by E is equal to Z sigma divided by square root of n into square root of n capital N minus n divided by capital N minus 1. So students, let's now summarize what we have learned in this module. One of the most common requests that researchers get from investigating agencies are sample size calculations or sample size justification for the proposed study. The sample size is the number of experimental units or samples included in a study. Determining the sample size to answer the research question is one of the important requirements in designing a study. In order to calculate the sample size, it is required to have some idea of the results expected in a study. In general, the greater the variability in the outcome variable, the larger the sample size required to assess whether an observed effect is a true effect or not. Thank you.